Today, I'm going to read a statement from a young lady named Jennifer Constable there in Scotland. She supported the No Thanks and Better Together back in 2014 and very, very strongly, but she is now an ardent supporter of independence, and here we go. So here it is. I voted no in 2014, but now I've changed my mind. When I voted no in 2014, it wasn't a difficult decision. By the way, the young lady's name is Jennifer Constable. It wasn't a difficult decision. I didn't spend any sleepless nights tossing and turning over the pros and cons of what an independent Scotland would look like, nor did I dither in the voting booth when it came to marking my X in the box. I was 19 years old and at the time felt confident that staying in the Union was the surest way to safeguard the interests of Scotland's most vulnerable. After all, I felt no different from any teenager living in Manchester, Belfast, or Cardiff. The notion that we would somehow be better off without each other seemed to me illogical. The risk, I believed, was too high and the potential collateral damage too great. Less than 2 years later, I sat up watching the results of the Brexit referendum come in, each new declaration sitting heavy in my chest. I felt upset, I felt betrayed, but most of all, I felt angry. Angry that we had been so misled by the politicians who would never need to shoulder the consequences of austerity. Angry that we were to be pulled out of Europe against our will. Angry, as it so often is, our most vulnerable in society would be the ones impacted the most. Just as my initial no vote was an easy choice, so was my switch to yes. The great thing about democracy, and something we sometimes forget, is that we are allowed to chop and change our minds as new circumstances arise. If the yes movement is to succeed, they will need a mass conversion of has-been no voters like myself to truly believe in independence and to feel accepted in the movement. This is only achievable if we allow people the freedom to reevaluate their position without fear of backlash and with the compassion and tolerance an independent Scotland should want to uphold. Well said, that you should want to exercise compassion and tolerance because you feel that those should be the traits that reflect on Scotland. That's brilliant. That's beautiful. I love it. All right. When I backed Better Together, I did so out of a passionate love for Scotland, our people, our culture, our heritage, and it's with that same passion that I now wholeheartedly come to support yes. I've learned that a union is only viable if each of its partners are given an equal say. Since 2014, it's become painfully apparent that Scotland's voice is not only being ignored, but entirely dismissed. As shown in the results of the general election last December, our path is no longer aligned with Westminster. We are separate nations with differing wants and priorities. To keep us locked in what has become the toxic marriage of the Union is nothing short of ruinous and will have a devastating impact on communities across the country. Momentum for independence is building, opinions are shifting, and perhaps most importantly, a hope is growing that we, Scotland, can raise ourselves to something better than this. Change is coming, and this time I'm glad to be on its side. Very well said. And as I said before, the more and more I read about these accounts of people who supported Better Together and the No Thanks movement in 2014 who have completely changed their minds now, I will continue to bring them to you. I want to point out that just like with Hannah, the previous person who campaigned for Better Together, who changed their mind and they are now voting yes, said the same thing, that the yes movement and the independence movement needs to be compassionate and tolerant and help to educate their fellow Scots in a way that, yes, in a confrontation-free kind of a setting, to allow them to evaluate. And it's going to be difficult to do, and maybe even be difficult to create the situation where they will learn. But I'll tell you what, we can't just be, we got to be, mindful of the fact that people don't like to be, talked down to. You got to kind of give people the information and allow them to use their own, common sense to come to the right conclusion. At least that's the way I try to operate. So I want to point that out about both of these people that I've now read basically their letter out, this article. Like I said before, it was Ruri Hannah, and this time it was Jennifer Constable. And as I said, as more of these come out, I will cover them, and because I think it's a big part of independence is understanding how people who were on the no side in 2014 are changing their minds. I think it's a big part of independence and how it's going to hopefully be ushered in. Alrighty, folks. So as I said before, I will continue to find these, accounts of people who were voting no and believed in better together and no thanks back in 2014 who have completely changed their minds now in light of watching all of those promises. Most of the time, I mean, that's what the common theme in these stories is watching all the promises and assurances dissipate, like smoke, and that's what it comes down to. They realize now they're never going to get a fair shake from Westminster. And I believe that's a true assessment. I believe that's a fair assessment. It's just the way it is. I'd wish it wasn't that way, to be perfectly honest. So, mainly, I just want to, obviously share accounts like this one of folks that feel that they were, misled in 2014 and why they are now decidedly yes voters. And obviously, with the way things they're going right now, the numbers are beginning to move towards yes a little bit more all the time. And a big part of that is watching the contempt that Scotland is kind of treated with in Parliament is one big part of it. And anyways, I will continue to watch and learn in this situation. Obviously, I've been learning as I go here and been reading a lot and consuming a lot of information, and I will continue to do so. This will be a lot like the way I started out with Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey about 4.5 years ago, where I knew nothing about their cases. And 4.5 years later, I'm probably among some of the top social media and podcasters when it comes to the Avery Dassey cases, among some others, of course. But hey, we all start somewhere. So right now I'm starting out learning about Scottish independence, UK politics, Brexit, and all that sort of stuff. And I will eventually be coming to a very informed opinion. But I do appreciate accounts like this one from Miss Jennifer Constable. People on the ground there, people that are already educated and have educated themselves about this, and I like to be able to read their opinions, their story. So I brought you that today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and we'll see you.